While there are many similarities between buying regular residential property and cottages, there are some specific considerations that you should be aware of for recreational properties, which includes a cottage. As with other properties, regulations vary by region. Familiarize yourself with the rules in your area to ensure you are providing the best advice to your clients. Cottages located within provincial and national parks are typically on leased land, which requires a lease agreement separate from the purchase of the cottage building. It is usually the responsibility of the seller to begin the process of transferring a lease made with Manitoba Conservation or Parks Canada to a new owner. This process is explained in the Cottager's Handbook, which is linked in the description below. In provincial parks, Manitoba Conservation may conduct a lot inspection before a new lease can be finalized. If the lot and associated buildings do not meet the standard for fire safety, overall condition, and sewage disposal, Manitoba Conservation may issue a letter of commitment requiring specific actions be taken by a certain date. Cottage properties may also be privately owned in an unassessed area of northern Manitoba. As such, it would be subject to the Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations Fees in lieu of Taxes program. These fees are typically paid annually and should be adjusted for in the same manner as property taxes. Transactions involving a secondary residential property or a vacation rental will have different financial considerations than buying or selling a primary residence. Advise your clients to consult the appropriate expert regarding their financing options and tax implications. Some regions may also impose rules or limitations on recreational properties used for commercial purposes, including vacation rentals or operating a business from a cottage. If your client is selling property used for commercial purposes or purchasing property with that intention, encourage them to fully investigate their obligations and any restrictions that may apply, including GST applicability. Remind your buyer clients that cottages often have more complicated and expensive maintenance requirements than other properties. Clarify whether the property is designed for and accessible during the winter months. This will include appropriate insulation, heating, and plumbing, as well as a location where roads are cleared. Determine the source and quality of the drinking water. There may be a well, pumps, and external water lines that need to be properly maintained. Depending on the water source, potability testing may need to be done. If more than one property shares a well, they may be considered a semi-public water system or a public water system based on the number of connections. Both of these systems require licensing under the Drinking Water Safety Act. Your client should speak to their lawyer about the water system for the property they are purchasing in advance of the offer to purchase to ensure that any necessary clauses are included. Similarly, the sewage disposal system will need to be inspected and looked after in compliance with local requirements. Connection to electricity and internet may be limited and costly to improve in some locations. Any upgrades, repairs, or renovations in a remote area will have additional challenges and costs compared to an urban location. Remind your clients that there may be extra restrictions, permits, and inspections required for any new development or changes made to existing properties within provincial or national parks. They should consult the appropriate Parks and Natural Areas branch for guidance regarding the approval process. Additionally, if your client is interested in purchasing vacant land to build a new cottage or recreational property, they need to be mindful of the applicable municipal bylaws for this type of development. For instance, some rural municipalities in Manitoba will not allow property owners to erect temporary structures or park an RV on the property before the cottage is built. There may also be requirements for the building to be started and completed within a particular time frame. As these rules vary throughout the province, it is important to check with the relevant municipal planning office and make sure your client understands any restrictions or requirements that may impact their plans. Remember, lot shapes and dimensions may be more variable in cottage country than in towns or cities. Always confirm the boundaries of the property with the appropriate planning authority to ensure you are advertising the property correctly. Buyers of waterfront property will want to be especially aware of their lot lines, because that usually determines the amount of the shoreline designated for the lot owner's primary use. Most shorelines have a protected area called the public reserve. Docks, boathouses, gazebos, pump houses, and certain other structures may be permitted on the public reserve, but there are usually strict rules that must be followed. Other changes to shorelines, such as bringing in sand to create a beach or removing vegetation, may also be restricted. If the property is adjacent to Manitoba hydro land, a permit is required to occupy it, even with existing features such as docks, boathouses, and riprap. For more information on current building guidelines and the possibility of variances for non-conforming structures, encourage your buyer clients to review the Cottager's Handbook and contact the local planning authority. Links to relevant resources are provided in the description below.